Hello everyone, thanks for listening in. As promised, we're going to do a final exam review just to make sure you have time to review the necessary items in order to get a good grade, of course, in the course. The final exam is going to be the last week of the course, and before that you'll have a week to study, but this gives you plenty of time to take a look at the content and read over the book. And as I said, for this past week, you didn't have any homework, so this hopefully played into your review of the book and the chapters as we went over it. To talk a little bit about the final exam, it's not super complicated. It's going to be under 50 questions, which I think is a good thing. A lot of them are going to be essay style, so I'm going to look for your writing skill and your answer. Some of them don't have direct answers, so there's not like a term that you need to memorize or a ideal or ideology. You're usually, in most questions, going to have to answer in complete sentences. So what I'm going to be looking for is a paragraph or two explaining the topic that I brought up. So one example is an essay question that talks about empathy. Define the importance of empathy in communication. So, I would want you to go into what empathy is, and then I would want you to define it within communication and why it's important. This is a completely open book, so if you're having trouble remembering exactly the definition of empathy, you can look in your book to find it. And then, of course, drill down into why it's important in communication further in the section where you answer the question. So there are a couple of multiple choice questions, which talk a little bit about kind of common sense stuff in regards to communication. Some you might have to look up online, which, of course, being an open book test, you can do. In conjunction with reviewing your book. So keep that in mind and don't stress too much about that. Further, I think there's some highlighted questions that talk about exactly what communication is, what the definition is, and how it's, kind of brought to life in regards to, kind of common sense definitions. But there might be some questions in this final exam that you have not seen before based on whether or not you've read the material. And it is located in the book. However, there are times that things are a little more difficult to find. So what I want you to do when you sit down and take this final exam is give yourself at least an hour, prepare before you go in, and just do the best you can. I think if you work hard on the exam while you're in the exam, you're going to do fine, because you're going to think about what you're writing before you post it. And also you're going to think about the questions before you answer them. So it shouldn't be that difficult. There are some APA questions in the exam, and I'm currently scrolling through it to make sure I don't miss anything. But the APA questions are kind of surrounding how do I cite this? So what's the correct citation for APA format? And you're listed out, 3 different references that you need to take a look at and to determine that is it in the right format. I will say sometimes in Blackboard it can change the font, so don't keep in mind the font as much as is it in the right order. So when you look at an APA reference, you're not looking for something that has a link attached to it, so keep that in mind. Alright, as I scroll through, I see some questions in regards to plagiarism. I'm sure everyone knows what that is. It's highlighted in the book. Communication sources, whether they're primary sources or secondary sources. We haven't talked directly about that, but be sure to realize its importance. References we already talked about. There are a few questions in here about the basis of communication, and we have to include this in the course. I know it's kind of something you might see in elementary school, but it's going to ask you to list what a pronoun is versus an adjective versus a verb. So that's usually pretty easy. You take a look at the sentence structure and make sure you know what a noun, a verb, an adverb, a pronoun is, and list those out. I'm not going to have many questions on that though. And you're going to have to list and gather information on what like a fragment is, versus a complete sentence too. So, and the rest look like essay type questions. Now I would say there would be around 10 essay questions, so it's going to take you a while to type out the answers. So keep that in mind as you're writing. Don't stress out too much. Lastly, you're going to talk about, a resume and the cover letter that we worked on, what the purpose of those are, why it makes a difference if you have a good one, kind of the things we highlighted in the early parts of our course. So this is posted, really early. You have about 3 to 4 weeks before this final exam is even open, so take your time in reviewing. If you have any questions, you can always reach out, but I wouldn't stress too much. However, if you prepare, you're going to do better. And I think that can be said of anything that we do in life. So do the best you can in regards to your preparation. If you need anything, shoot me an email. We can set up a call, or we can talk, via message, whatever works. And, I assume that everyone's going to do really well because that's what's happened in the past with this exam. So I hope everyone has a good weekend and you take time to review this. And if you need anything, let me know. Thanks.